how you play games is how you play life. Here's how the sales game originally started. I want you to imagine Max and Dax. You have 20 poker chips in front of you right now.
Yep.
And imagine everyone in Team Happily have the same 20 poker chips.
Yep.
Whoever finishes the next 30 minutes of the podcast with the most chips wins $1,000 cash prize.
Ooh.
Yep.
I'm holding all my HubSpot knowledge hostage until I get the
Yeah,
chips.
you see, on today's episode of the Built Happily podcast, we have Steve and Darcy from Outbound.Game.
Steve and Darcy share the story of how they first came together over a chicken focaccia sandwich and how through a long series of events, they ended up building a successful sales training organization and turning that into one of the coolest apps that you've seen on the HubSpot marketplace these days, especially if you're into gamification. All that and more on this episode of the Built Happily podcast.
This is the Built Happily podcast, where we dive into building apps, companies, and relationships in the HubSpot ecosystem.
As HubSpot grows, so does the opportunity, and we put you in the room with the people making it all happen. Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Built Happily podcast, hosted by myself as well as the esteemed Dax Miller, Chief Care Officer here at Happily. We are joined by two of my very good friends who I've had the pleasure, I'm going to call it the pleasure, of sitting down for a couple of podcasts with you guys on some different stuff where I know we've had a great time. I know we've had some pretty deep conversations too. I feel like that one we had during the pandemic, like when we first met, that was a real fun one. Got way deeper than I thought it was going to be. But now the tables have turned, if you will, and you're in our house now, and we get a whole hour with you guys. Real quick, because I know this is the first time you guys are meeting Dax, and also might be the first time meeting our audience as well. Before we get into the whole story and everything here, tell the folks listening, what is the Outbound Game? Who are you guys? What do you do? What would be the pitch, I guess, that you'd give anyone kind of running into you for the first time? And we'll start there, and then we're gonna Tarantino this and unravel the story as we get into it.
Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, so Steve and Darcy were the co-founders of the Outbound Game. We fell into the world of SaaS during the pandemic, funnily enough. Our backstory has all been in sales training, consulting, working with teams all around the world, helping them with their go-to-market strategies, developing playbooks, coaching teams, working with leadership.
Yep.
That was our bread and butter. And then COVID hit. Me and Darcy were doing a lot of travel, going on site, visiting clients. COVID hit.
We're going to get into that. But you have a HubSpot app, right?
Oh, 100%, man. We gamify HubSpot. HubSpot. So then we turned HubSpot into the arcade. That's what we do now. Help people.
Never would have thought that I could see that one come.
Yeah.
It was a real Tarantino. We actually told the story completely out of the wrong order, and now the audience has got to piece it together.
That's fine. I'm gonna keep us on track. So you guys build a gamification app for sale. I guess, well, it sounds like when we talked recently, you might be expanding outwards a little bit from sales teams, but originally you built this for sales teams. So can you tell the folks what the app does in the context of HubSpot and how the two things talk together?
Yeah, for sure. So we gamify activities, deal stage movement, custom outcomes for calls, meetings, financial goals, tasks is a big one. Overdue tasks are the bane of sales teams' existence. But we'll be continuing to moving into tickets. And we want to turn HubSpot into just the arcade, man. So eventually moving into different hubs. But sales is our bread and butter. That's where we started. So
gotcha. And the way that I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you guys are looking at a lot of the data that sales reps are generating inside of HubSpot when they're working their deals, closing their deals, running all their activities. And then you guys have this gamification platform that you've built that then ties into this HubSpot data, and they're able to how does it where is it redeeming gifts based on credits that they're getting for different stuff that they're doing? What are the mechanics of that thing in the background, just so people can understand that platform a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So it's like the arcade. You can do two different reward mechanisms. The first one is you're collecting coins. You get coins for every activity that you complete, but the gamification engine, you can incentivize certain activities more than others, right? So you might get 55 coins for a call, but you might get 155 coins for a decision maker call as a custom outcome. And then you might get 500 coins for a meeting. So you're getting coins for every single activity, a bit of that mini dopamine every time it's happening. You're getting real-time notifications from the whole team so you can see exactly what's going on. But the whole game is really where you get good juicy cash is you've got to beat the clock. So every game is driven with a timer, a sprint timer, which could be like a month-long sprint, a week-long sprint, a blitz. And if you can beat a certain KPI activity before the timer runs out, you get big bonus multipliers. And then that's where you really start rocking up the leaderboard. So then just like the arcade, you go collect your 10,000 coins and you go redeem it for a Game Boy, or you go redeem it for a guitar or time off, or you can fully customize the reward store as well. So that's the OG version. And then we've also just launched Podium Finish. So
come on, man, this shit is dope.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun because like
so if I'm a sales manager, sales director, and I'm looking for a way to either grease the skids or get my sales reps a little bit something else besides a commission to be like motivated to close deals, or maybe do some of these other activities that aren't like guaranteed to lead to commission but can push deals in the right direction, they're able to set up like you guys have this like marketplace aspect to it where you can let people choose different prizes or whatever it may be that they have available to their reps in a store. And then they're able to say, hey, we set up these different games, which I really like because, you know, the idea of setting up different games is it could be time-based or like whatever it may be, where it's like, hey, we've got this like end of quarter push that we're doing, or we want to keep the momentum going into Q1 or whatever it may be, or do stuff at the beginning of the quarters differently than we do at the end of the quarters and incentivize people a little bit differently. You guys have this platform that you can set up all that stuff. But then the way people are actually like gaining this digital currency in order to trade it in for different stuff is all dependent on their performance inside of HubSpot.
Bingo, yeah. And
that is super cool.
We can geek out about the mechanics all day because like the leaders that really get it, like every leader starts with, I want my team to be doing more calls and booking more meetings. And then that's like that's the gateway. And then they get into it and they're like, oh man, we can use this for driving all sorts of behaviors. Like, this is really interesting. I really want my team to be sending more personalized videos, but they're always afraid to be doing it at scale. Man, what if I just dial that up and then have a mini sprint for a week? And then all of a sudden the team does like 150 personalized videos and the leader's like, okay, this is cool. Instead of hitting them with a stick, going, come on guys, do it. It's just like, we can just change the game dynamic. And then the behaviors change. And so it's super fun.
Yeah, it's the carrot versus the stick. I mean, like my entire job at a place where I worked, my first kind of real job as an adult was running marketing. And a part of that marketing, right, when people think about external marketing and how do I get people marketing, know what my business does, know what my business is, make them feel a certain way. But in reality, a lot of the things that you need to do, you need to market to the people that work at the company, market to the people that are inside the walls. Like getting a new website might be cool for people that aren't, but it may jazz up the sales team. Like, oh, I can't wait to send people a new website, and all this stuff. But like every month we had a huge theme, like pirates or casino, and we'd have to do is like 100 reps together, BDRs and SDRs, or like the AEs and biz dev. And it was all about like a big calendar, and I designed a move the ship over, and if you set 3 demos a day, you get a token and you get to do all of that. But it was like a lot of work. The day before the first of the month, we had to rip down like all the stuff from last month, put it all up this month. And now you have that virtually is bananas. And to be able to game it, and I mean, which you made something dope. I'm gonna be straight up. I would use that in a heartbeat if I had like a sales team, because it would just be fun, and I'd probably have more fun than the sales reps. But
we'll get there one day.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
100%.
100%. I'm getting tokens, cash them shits in. Like, it's super cool, man.
I just think it's cool too. Go ahead. Go ahead, Darcy.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got that feedback a lot, Dax, in terms of people hearing about the platform, hearing the concept behind it. And immediately with gamification, you get people interested. Like just that word gamification, people are naturally intrigued. I think it's a very human thing to be interested in games. It's just, that's cool. And so we had that feedback for years that people are like, yep, this is cool. This is a great idea. I see how that would work. And it wasn't until probably the last, would you say 9 months, Steve, that we went like all in on the big orange monster, all in on HubSpot. Yeah. That's when things really started to turn, Dax. That's when people were like, this went from being interesting to being like, whoa, this is quite effective, because our team aren't double handling anymore. And now not only are you motivating and driving my team to do more sales behaviors, but you're actually motivating and driving them to use their CRM a whole lot more. Which, as Steve said, is the bane of a lot of sales leaders' existence.
Yeah, the adoption.
The adoption. So we're coming at it from both sides now, which is really cool through specialization.
Yeah. They used to say, like, that's funny. Is it in Salesforce? Is it in Salesforce? It's back where they use Salesforce, the 4-letter word now. But now it's the same idea, right? I just set 3 demos, y'all. It's like, is it in HubSpot? Like, is it marked? Like you're on the leaderboard. You look like you got fat goose egg on the leaderboard.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
putting this up on the big TVs, like all over the place where you have like this score because you have the TV set up. Like I get it. I've lived this life pretty heavily. If I would have had this would be it. It's just like, okay, new game, change the theme. I'm sure you have options where I can set the background and make it Halloween, and I do my whole Halloween thing, my cool posters on the wall, and there's the game.
Freaking nailed it, bro. We got a client down in Melbourne, and they're so good at the theme side of things. So like when the Olympics were on, they did like an Olympic-based
exactly same Olympics. We give out T-shirts.
Yeah.
But now it's like if you just have a system rather than like me designing I designed like 20 posters, making fun of people that work there and have the posters and Halloween decorations, skits. You've probably seen some skits. We used to do skits, Max, the whole like joint like we do. It is the whole thing, but like the fact that you have this inside of HubSpot makes my heart giggle.
That's great.
And I think the really interesting thing about this too is when you think of a lot of the different things that are involved in sales, like the incentive to close deals is obvious. It's the commission. It's there, right? But is there a lot of incentive to adopt your CRM platform and actually use it so the data's in there for the people who care about it and you can drive the automation that you need to, right? But also at the same time, there's no incentive to just like practice the proper behaviors, right? And so I think it's like really interesting in that gamification is a lot more than, oh, you'll win prizes if you close deals. It's, well, I really only care about commission. Well, it's, no, like you'll be rewarded for good specific behaviors we're trying to work on as a team, whether it is adopting the CRM so we actually have a reason to use it beyond just satisfying our overlords that want to keep track of everything that we're doing and things like that. So I think the gamification stuff, like oftentimes I think people can hear that word and they really think of it as just one thing. And it's no, there's a lot of mechanics behind like why that really work in terms of what your goals are with your sales team around different behaviors you're trying to drive, different adoption of different tools that like you want to show them there's value in using it, but then you can give them that extra incentive to, hey, just at least try it out, because if you do, maybe you can go home with a new iPhone or something along those lines.
Dude,
right?
Oh
like,
my gosh.
You know, because sometimes you need a little bit of extra motivation to actually use these tools that are meant to make your life easier, because a lot of salespeople don't like change. So it's like, what else can you give me to at least get me in there and start using it and working it? And I think you guys offer like a really cool solution that has a lot of the mechanics of that really drive those things that are generally like pretty tough to do when there's no other incentive behind. I already know how to close deals. Like, why do I need this thing to do that? It's a HubSpot app today, along with the platform that you guys have built, but it wasn't always that. It wasn't even software at one point. And I know you guys, you told me the story that I want you to tell me it again, just because I feel like my details on it are a bit fuzzy. But I remember you told me about this training that you did a lot of stuff on site with people before the pandemic happened, where it was like you gave, I don't know, they spent like a weekend at a hotel and you gave them these like tokens, and it was like whoever had the most at the end won. And then they'd have to learn bartering and sales and things like that as they go through it. Before you tell me that, I want to go even back. How did you guys even meet? Tell me the story of Darcy and Steve and how you guys like crossed paths in this universe, and then what led it to you guys doing that training, and then tell me about what that old version of this was before it was software.
The chicken focaccia story.
The chicken focaccia story. Tell us. This sounds amazing.
He spilled it all over Darcy. He's like,
hey,
man.
Please tell me you both put your hands on the same chicken focaccia sandwich at the same time.
And then the gods opened up, and Sean, and that was it.
Chicken focaccia tattoos, and we were done. So Steve was running a lot of sales trainings with larger companies, larger sales teams, particularly in that project-centric space, a lot of construction manufacturing teams. I was doing a lot of training with like solopreneurs, small business owners, helping them understand sales and learn how to sell the first time. A lot of them have a lot of passion but don't know how to sell anything. So I was working with a lot of those. And there was a mutual friend we had a guy called Glenn Azar. His daughter, Alyssa, is actually is she the youngest female ever to scale Everest? Is that right, Steve? Anyway, Glenn's a beast. Glenn's done like 100 Kokoda track trails and like all this sort of stuff. He's a beast. He's an incredible a legend of a guy. Yeah. He ran an adventure tour company, right? And he asked me to come along and do 2 days with their team in Brisbane in Australia. And Glenn had recently attended an event that Steve had run. And so he knew Steve through that. Anyway, he gets onto Steve and says, hey, I know we don't know each other super well at the moment, but there's a guy that I'm bringing my team in to do training with in Brisbane. Why don't you come along? You're not part of our team specifically. Come along, watch this guy train. I think you guys would get on well. So I did. And then at halfway through, the whole group goes out for lunch. There was about 10 of us or whatever. Steve and I both grabbed the same chicken focaccia, and we're sitting there eating.
Wait, I need more details. How did you guys randomly grab? You mean you randomly
Oh,
grabbing
no, two
sandwich?
separate
What
chicken
do you
focaccias.
mean?
It's just that...
Okay.
We
It's just
ordered
that we ordered the
buffet.
same thing.
shit.
But the running joke is, mate, like, we're that good of friends. We're that alike that we, like, whenever we go out for dinner, we've been on, how many times have we been on site around the world, Steve? 100,
Hundreds.
200 times on site. We'll always order the same thing for dinner. We'll always get the same thing for lunch. The only thing we split is like a coffee order. We're a little bit different there, but we're always getting the same. It's just like...
You guys
your
are
lady and the
adorable.
tramp. Lady and the tramp. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
about
split
that.
no
But you just,
spaghetti.
oh,
Yeah. So yeah, we're at halftime. We're eating our focaccias, and I turned to Steve. I was like, "Mate, so what do you do?" I didn't know Steve at this stage. I was like, "What's your story?" He goes, "Oh, I do sales training." I was like, "Oh, like today, like what I'm doing?" He's, "Yeah, no, exactly like that. It's exactly what I do." "Oh, awesome. How old are you, bro?" He's, "I'm 25. How old are you?" I'm 25.
25.
Oh, why are we? Oh, okay, interesting. And we were just like, so we're competitors, but you're a good dude. Like, we should hang out more often. Anyway.
Yeah.
So then a little while later, around about 6 months later, I lived in Melbourne at the time. I was flying to Brisbane. I said, "Mate, let's catch up for a beer. It was good to meet you 6 months ago." And from there, we just had this really great conversation over the same dinner in Brisbane, and just had this pretty full-on chat about business and life and where we wanted to go. And we were both able to give each other so much quality advice right there in that moment over that 1 or 2 hour dinner, that from that moment on, we were just bloody good friends, like just remained in each other's circles. Did a little bit of business stuff here and there together over the next 2 years or so. But then when COVID hit was when we went all in. Now, just before that, one thing that we had in common was we both got to the point where we were pretty burned out. It's a pretty long, winding story, but Steve had gone through his own mental health challenges, his own burnout challenges, the first time he'd ever burned out. My mum had unfortunately passed away around about 12 months prior, so I was going through a whole grief journey and self-reflection journey through all of that. And we both kind of reached each other at the bottom of the pit, would you say, Steve? We're like,
Yeah,
man, it sucks down here. It's dark. Anyway, it's the worst place to be. I turned to my right and there's Steve there also. It's like, man,
Hey, man.
to be. Yeah, hey, bro, how much
Gotcha.
does this suck? Yeah. So anyway, we were like, mate, let's do something different. Like, one problem that we had, the thing that made us so frustrated with sales training, and it still sits at the core of even Outbound today as well. And Dax, you'll know this. We had worked with so many teams. We'd trained so many teams. We'd led so many teams. And you would always get the same response from people, which was they loved it, cool training, plenty of head nods, plenty of ideas, but the implementation would fall over completely. Nothing actually gets implemented. Nothing actually gets done. I said to Steve, there needs to be a better way to do this. So we decided to put on an event, and I had recently attended an event that was all run through games, and your learning was all done through games. And because of that, the implementation of that learning just almost happened immediately. You had real life examples of how you're playing this game is how you're playing real life. And it was extraordinary. Changed my life personally. I said, Steve, there's something to this game stuff. Let's run an event, 2-day event full of games. The best game that came out of that was an event.
Don't tell them to us. We'll get them to play right now. You guys up for it?
Oh, good.
I'm
Okay,
on a
Yes.
computer.
Yeah,
So here's what Darcy is very humble about. He's a freak at psychology, right? Like, he studied psychology. He's obsessed with psychology. Like, I'm obsessed with like strategy and game mechanics and geeking out on that stuff. Darcy's a freak when it comes to the brain. So like those two parts coming together is a lot of fun. So here's how the sales game originally started. I want you to imagine Max and Dax. You just now have 20 poker chips in front of you right now, right? There's a stack of 20 poker chips.
Mhm.
And imagine everyone in Team Happily have the same 20 poker chips.
Mhm.
Yep.
Whoever finishes the next 30 minutes or whoever finishes the next 30 minutes of the podcast with the most chips wins $1,000 cash prize.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yep.
People
At this
got
point in time, there's no rules. You can do whatever you like to try and collect more chips. Just understand that everyone else is trying to do the same thing as you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go.
Easy. I'm telling Joe and Brian I'm never getting on a demo again until they give me their chips.
Man, I'm
Interesting.
giving up my chips and trying to split. Let's keep it moving.
What did you say,
Alright.
Dax? Sorry, I
I'd be
missed
like,
that,
I live,
Dax.
in, I live in abundance. I'd be like, who wants my chips?
Yeah.
And I'm going to get something
I'll
outside
take
of
your
$1,000
chips.
Fascinating,
bucks.
man.
Yeah, I don't want the $1,000 bucks, but I'll be like, I'll give you my chips, but one day I'm going to ask you for a favor. That's it. I'm moving on. I don't have to worry about it. I like zero brain real estate. So I'm like, who wants
Yeah.
the chips? I'm gonna sit back on the side and watch.
Yeah, I'm holding all my HubSpot knowledge hostage until I get the chips.
You see,
That's basically
you chose
what it is.
vengeance. I chose
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're selling knowledge, and Dax, you're playing the 1 + 1 = 3 game. You're playing the team game on that sort of thing.
Yeah, let me get something later.
Yeah. So as the game progresses, we introduce things like tax. So now imagine, Max, you're really rich because you've held on to all your chips. Dax, you've got no chips because you gave them all away. We tax the rich and give it to the poor. That changes the dynamic. We introduce a bunch of other mechanics that we don't want to give it all away, but the big aha moment is however you went to try and decide that's how I'd go about collecting more chips. We have this saying, how you play games is how you play life. It's a massive mirror to how you probably operate in some level in the real world. Max, you probably value knowledge and the sharing of knowledge and understand that there's value in that. Dax, you're probably a big collaborator, and let's figure out how we can all win out of this together. And so what it does is in this little like microcosm of an event, people realize, oh, holy shit, that's me. Oh, wow, that's Max. Oh, and it's just this huge, for Darcy, it's like this psychology on a platter human behavior experiment.
It's the what's it called? I forgot what the kid, the book with the kids, the pig. And the
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies. That's all it is. It's just another Lord of the Flies like puppeteer game. You guys are like, yes. I mean, Hunger Games. It's Hunger Games. It's the whole thing has been rewritten. And you guys are packaging it into this something that's really easy to digest and swallow and make. That's what you want people to have, right? You want that aha moment because it's a self-realization. Everything about aha is not like somebody told me something and then I was like, oh, no, it's somebody told me something. I digested it. Then it made me change the way I look at everything. It's like, because self-realization comes from self, not from somebody telling you anything. So as you guys are putting people into the arena, they're starting to see oh man, I didn't know that they were like that. Oh dude, I was like, Max, you're bogus. Like, why are you gonna try to like hold people hostage, hold the ransom? Like, what are you doing?
$1,000, man.
I'm like, yo, forget the $1,000. I bet you I get $1,000 worth of value by being broke and then getting something else. Like that's again, it's mindset. I just learned something about this dude.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you guys are running these games. You're doing this stuff in person, and then the pandemic comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
First off, tell me about that moment where you guys were just like, oh, we can't do this in person anymore. And like, how did that evolve to going to, you have this SaaS platform now? Or tell me about the decision you guys were making that got you there.
Yeah, I'll never forget it, Darcy. Because literally just before the pandemic, me and Darcy did a tour in the US. We were running the sales game with organizations and the communities in the US. And you guys loved it. It's really interesting because how Australians play the game is very different to how the US plays the game as well. So we were having a ball. We're like, man, this is going to take off. Next year's going to be huge.
And this you got to remember, guys, this is like a couple of young Aussie lads doing it big in America. Like to us, to you guys, that's normal. To us, that was
Is America cool to Australians?
Oh, yeah, to do business in America, that's big to us.
You have more businesses in the US than humans in Australia. Like,
that's wild. Yeah.
It's big, right?
Yeah, we own that capitalism hard.
Yeah. So anyway, it was going off and we were getting requests to run this in a mini way with like big sales conferences and all this stuff. This is it. Like all this work we're putting in, this is it. And then me and Darcy were literally about to fly out to New Zealand. Boom, airport's shut. Game over. And all of our clients got spooked. So our revenue literally went to zero overnight. So going from like good recurring revenue, good contracts, $0. And me and Darcy were just like, whoa, man, what are we going to do? And I remember at that moment, me and Darcy were like, we just knew that this thing wasn't going to be like a 6-week in and out and done kind of thing. We were just like, this thing is going to hang around for a long time. We just could sense it.
Yeah. So
we made a decision at that point of two things. Number one, we were going to give as much as we possibly could. So we ran a daily webinar for 150 episodes that we still even run today on a weekly basis, just giving heaps of value. And then the second decision we made is if there's an opportunity for us to do things differently, we're going to play offense here and we're not going to play defense. So with the very little money that we had, we always thought the sales game was impossible to play online. Like, how are you going to facilitate chips getting handed around? And like, how do you do that? How do you facilitate the tax? How do you facilitate the Shark Tank? It's impossible to do online, but when your back's against the wall, all of a sudden you go, well, I wonder if we could turn the sales game event into an online event. Wonder if we could build an app. So we did. We burnt through a lot of money. We built the app. We ended up running a couple of events with some of the biggest US cloud-based banking companies, and we had 150 reps on a sales kickoff playing the sales game virtually, walking around in this virtual world and handing chips to each other. And it was nuts. We were just like completely winging it. And then in the sales game, there's this unlock called the Shark Tank. I'm sure you've seen the TV show.
Sure.
You pitch real world ideas for the exchange of chips. That's one of the big unlocks in the game.
Oh, okay.
So people love that. But 3 people at this event said exactly the same thing. They said, this game and event's pretty cool, but it'd be awesome if you guys could make a game we could play all day, every day.
Job.
Yeah.
And you like immediately ran home. That's what I would have been like, be right back. Tyrone.
And so then we just Frankensteined the app and started building it in a way of, I wonder if we could use this for like sales activities. I wonder if we could use this for like real world. So instead of just like having tokens and chips that you pass to each other, how can we make it so you collect chips in the platform? And what would that look like? And then we just Frankensteined it, man, and just kept developing and developing.
So did you immediately go, oh, we've got to tie this into a CRM somehow? Was that like the initial thought, or was it like a different, tell me about it. Yeah.
We were more like, we called it the Outbound Royal Rumble. It wasn't even called Outbound. It was called the Outbound Royal Rumble. It was a 4-hour online event that we would facilitate with clients. They would go
I got it. Yeah.
They would go and do a blitz, and we would gamify their activities for a 4-hour event. And me and Darcy had to manually update the platform in the background as they were doing activities.
Like holding it all together and stuff.
We were Frankenstein this thing, man. We were just like hacking it. And then people were getting like huge activity lifts in those 4 hours. And they're like, that was really fun. Like that Outbound was fun for a sec. And then it just developed and developed. And then we made it into a platform that was self-service so they could design their own games. And then the whole issue was like, no, this needs to be integrated with the CRM. Like we can't have this as a separate platform. Because like what you're saying before, Dax, I just booked 17 meetings. If it's not in the CRM, it doesn't exist.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. And they're like, screw you, man. I just did all that effort. So that's when we had to start building integrations and go like, how does this be a bolt-on? How do we make this into like a CRM turbo?
Sales leaders were torn a bit, Steve, at that time, in a good way, because we get feedback from a lot of sales leaders and they'd say, hey, we love it. Our team are doing a whole lot more activity. Only one problem. They love your platform and using your platform way more than they love using our CRM. So all the information's going into Outbound.
Shit, we just made a CRM by accident.
Legit.
So and then they start asking you for more features.
Can you do email? How about calling? Do you have a portal?
Exactly.
We had to learn so much about tech. Like you're in that world as well, man. Like it's the coolest thing because anything's possible, but the worst thing about it is anything's possible. And you got to learn how to be really like disciplined and saying no and being like, cool idea, but no, it doesn't match with where we actually want to take this thing.
So was there a point in time where it wasn't hooked up to a CRM, but people were like quite literally like logging calls and tasks in this platform separate to
they're
their
playing
CRM?
The game.
Legit. The rewards mechanism and the leaderboard and the way we visually designed it was so attractive to people. For a good while there, people were happy in somewhat to log it in their CRM and then go and log it in Outbound so that they could get their
like, hold on, I got 2 calls. It makes so much sense, man. It's just like the psychology behind it, of course, is I'm playing a game. It separates my activity from I made you do it versus I want to do it. And that simple push-pull mechanism of, man, if you told me to dial 100 times, I'm going to dial 100 times because I want that iPhone. And I remember where I used to work, they had like a trip to Japan and stuff. People were like tripping, knife fights in the parking lot, like most sales organizations. They were like, no, he didn't get, then I got accused of cheating. Like I was helping some sales rep. I'm like, dude, I get no prizes. I'm the game master. You guys get to do all this stuff. I just set it all up and you guys are mad. Like like you said, the Lord of Flies happens so good. And I think it's crazy that you had people have problems having folks logging stuff in the CRM. You had people double logging for the love of the game, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that first CRM integration. I know you guys are all HubSpot today, but like, I'm assuming you started on like a Salesforce or something else, or no?
Yeah, we originally betted on 3 horses. We were like Salesforce, Pipedrive.
Safe bet.
Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive.
Okay.
And we figured out pretty damn quickly that Salesforce is an absolute nightmare to work with. Oh my goodness. Oh, which version of it are you
You're not
using?
going to hack together something on Salesforce.
And the drop-down menu is like longer than my arm. I'm just like, this is dumb. Okay. So we pretty quickly ruled that one out. Pipedrive was like pretty easy to work with, and HubSpot we were using ourselves. Like we were actually, that was our CRM of choice anyway. And
so you became HubSpot customers during all this.
Yeah, we started using HubSpot.
Yeah.
And the original integration was because we were like, okay, people already love using our platform. What if we made it that they logged it in Outbound and it pushed into HubSpot against the contact company or deal? That was the original like basic version of, you can log it in Outbound and it just gets pushed in.
Yep.
And
even when we saw that, Steve, we were blown away. We were like, oh, this is the game changer.
Right. And then we built Zapier. And Zapier was interesting because then we were starting to pull in from like everything, and like, people were running like fitness games and like pulling in from Strava logged activities, and we're pulling in from Vidyard, and we're pulling in from Proposify, and we're like, that's when I started to get the whole big vision of, oh, hang on a sec, this thing could one day be this crazy gamify the world type thing. And then I went off venturing down the not recommended path of anything is possible, and wasted $1 gazillion exploring ideas that weren't it. And then when I realized, oh no, hang on a sec, HubSpot is the game. That is, I could just see what they were doing. We met a lot of the HubSpot folk and we're like, these people are cool, man. We met some of the executives at Salesforce as well. You guys are very different human beings, man. Like just the way you see the world is very different. We're like, we're more HubSpot people, like in terms of we like to have fun and like you see what's up and share and being generous and all that sort of stuff. And then when we started to figure out, and a lot of it was actually learned through Zapier integrations, like what could we actually pull out of HubSpot? That's when we're like, okay, let's build the very best native integrations, pulling direct, and make it so it's like dumb easy. Like you just click a couple of buttons and bam, like it's got exactly what you want. But because it was a very long journey, Max, and a lot of feedback from clients, like we had at the time about 150 companies using the platform, we could get like direct feedback of like, what do you really want to be pulling out of your HubSpot? And people are saying like, well, we don't want to just integrate with calls. We want to be able to incentivize a certain type of call more than another call. And then someone else we also want to gamify potentially how long they're on the phone. Can you gamify on call duration? Yeah, done. So we started to build it specifically for the sales leaders and the teams of what they wanted. And now it's
nice.
So fun.
You guys are tuned into those activity APIs and deal APIs.
Oh, man,
and like all that stuff. Yeah.
I never thought I'd be a guy that like gets excited about API docs, but
but now I get very excited about them, and I don't even know how to code. Dude, tell us that. So you, in the grand scheme of things, we're still like, if we look at the whole history of the app marketplace and the ecosystem, you guys are still like a relatively like new entry to it. Tell us like, what was that like going from, okay, we know we want to build something on HubSpot to we've got our app listed. What was that journey? What did you guys learn during that process?
Yeah, we're still learning a lot, man. Like we're actively connecting with a lot of HubSpot partners, and we're learning. This is what I love about the HubSpot community is you guys are sharers. Like at its core, it's a sharing community. Like we were on a call the other day with a guy, and he's, hey man, I worked at HubSpot for 8 years. Here's what you should be focusing on. Like it's not just about the app itself. It's about the services around the app and what you can do to support people around that, and what you can do to build leverage for the other people. Like we're learning a heap around it, but the main thing that I'm excited about is we've done a heap of work on our platform side, bringing in activities into the platform. What we're focused on now is how do we also then build cards and stuff back in the other way?
Yes.
Like how do we start playing in the HubSpot playground itself? And so we've got a few ideas that are a little percolating in the background at the moment.
Yeah, there's a couple places where now you can really start to do some fun stuff. I mean, if you've already seen Doom has been done. I think one of the homies did Drug Cartel, like from TI 85 in. So you're getting
someone just did Pokemon cards on CRM records.
Pokemon's been done. So your game is ripe.
Funny enough, not to switch gears into something totally like technical, but when I saw public app UI extensions, right? And for anyone listening or watching at home that doesn't know what that is, right? It's basically HubSpot granting the ability for third-party public apps like all of ours to be able to augment the interface of records in much deeper ways than were ever possible beyond like doing a little CRM sidebar card that maybe popped out a modal or doing stuffing some information in properties or whatever. I immediately thought of you guys when they started talking about the UI extension stuff, because I was like, damn, there's probably a lot of cool stuff that you guys can bring in on that. Is there anything that you can tell us about that maybe you're thinking about? Like, how are you going to show some stuff, or what ideas have you had about how you guys can leverage that with your integration?
Yeah, so like the center cards are really interesting to us. Like a big part of the game that people really love is this timer effect, and like exactly seeing in real time, which you can't really do in HubSpot, of how many calls are you behind or ahead of as a team or individually in real time, literally this second, in a really simple view. And so we want to start building in like our thermometers, which are sexy, around those KPI goal attainments, and then the coin payouts on the end of it and what those bonus coins could really look like. Leaderboards are low-hanging fruit to be able to have visibility on how the team's actually tracking on the leaderboard point of view. But we're also playing around with a lot of AI stuff at the moment, which is pretty interesting because we've got really defined metrics and really defined scope around what does your KPI plan look like for this month.
Yep.
We're very much exploring what is the most streamlined path to get there.
Exactly. It's like, hey, you're X amount of calls behind, and based upon your teammates' success time of calls, at about 10 minutes, it's time to dial. Like that type of, totally. That's like the pops up and it's like, hey, you know what you should do, Genie Man, and hit it up. That is, I'm super hyped for you guys. This is the time for this, right? This is hardly possible, T-minus like 3 years, but now is the time where you can really fully leverage, and it's only going to get better and better and better. I know we're all still early, as you've probably found out, Mr. Steve, Mr. Darcy, that the native app table is kind of small. People are like, I just built app for HubSpot, and it's just us. This is a large percentage of the people that do it are on this call. So when you talk about the future and what you could do to shape, remember that you are a bridge builder. Like you talk about sharing, you talk about being generous with your information, let information being Akashic record, like where everyone can get it, make it sure everyone can access it. This is the time to do that because we are bridge builders, and we're building these bridges for everyone that's going to come in the future. It's like, man, I saw that game thing. Like, I want to do something like that, but I just want to do X part. And you're like, yeah, please make our platform, like do something, right? Because the more people doing stuff, the more bubbles everything up, and that rising tide raises all the ships. So I think that you guys are on the right mission. I'm super excited. I'm so happy to further know your love story. The bromance is real as hell, which is dope as hell. Real humans. Like, there's not a lot of real humans in stuffy suit games. No sales demo. You know what I mean? That stuff is the super word, man. So we're mega glad to have you. Mega glad for you to be able to share your story. One of the things we like to do when we sign off is do a fast 3, see what's up, questions you weren't ready for. But you guys said you traveled a bunch. Favorite place to travel outside of Australia?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Okay.
Yeah, either that or Berlin, Germany.
Steve, what would you say?
Yeah.
Well, like I said at the start, recently got back from Japan. I would love to spend a lot more time in Japan. I've been twice, but the last trip we got out of the main parts and got into some of the little dope little villages and towns where you're the only kind of non-Japanese person there, and I frothed it. I loved it. My favorite city though is Hamburg, Germany. Me and Darcy spent a bit of time in Germany, and I love that place. Just does something to me. I feel so at home there.
Darcy, I gotta know why you like Austin. Are you a stand-up comedy guy? What's your
about it? I feel like I traveled to Austin before it was cool, but I feel like everyone in Austin probably would say that. They were like, I was here before it was cool. Steve and I spent a bit of time in Austin as well. Every time I've been there, I've just had a bloody brilliant time. Just had a grand old time. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah,
Texas is dope. I live in Texas, so
sick. Where are you? Where are you, Dax?
I'm in north of Dallas.
Yep, sweet.
I live north of Dallas suburbs, but I've only been in Texas for like 2 years now. But my wife's already got the tattoo. I'm getting the tattoo. It's a thing.
Great.
Shout out to everybody in Texas. Second question: can't talk about video games without giving me your favorites.
I grew up. I'm an OG. So I'm the youngest of 2 older brothers. So I was like the young kid that was always trying to get my hands on the controller. I'm an OG NES boy. Like, Literally, I spent the most time playing the original Super Nintendo on the NES, on the NES. I've still got our family console, still got the family.
The fact that you're calling it NES is like, oh, you're definitely not from here, sir.
Yeah, NES, you guys call it?
NES. But I know people out there call it the NES all the time.
But don't you call it the SNES?
Some people call it the SNES. I don't talk to those people.
Yeah, okay. Well, I love the NES. Yeah. And then Nintendo 64 Pokemon Stadium, man.
Pokemon Stadium. There it is. This is an NES cartridge, not a NES. But I've never heard anybody say it in person. That's why I'm like so fascinated. But can't hate a gamer, man. Can't hate a game. Yeah. Darcy, what is your favorite video game?
I can't split two in terms of, and this is in terms of amount of time spent playing. I spent countless hours playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original. So much time. Like, if you stuck me in the middle of one of those maps, I'd know exactly where to go still.
Dude, we gotta play. I'm still a demon.
Yeah. And then, of course, this one's a classic, like saying that your favorite movie is The Shawshank Redemption, which it also is. But Super Mario Smash Brothers. Yeah. I'm a big Falco man.
You've also played a fair bit of FIFA in our day, Darcy.
Oh, yeah, but I'm no good at it. I know my way around a Super Smash Bros. Map. FIFA, I can hardly find the back of the goal, but, you know.
Yeah, can I share two very embarrassing video game things real quick?
I need it. One. The first name is video
game. I always feel so left out of a lot of conversations that we're having around video game stuff because the very first console my parents let me get was a freaking PlayStation 1, dude. So, like, I missed out on... Oh, dude, I put... hours up on Crash Bandicoot. Right now,
I got references of it.
This is like a double nerd layer here, and I'm only bringing it up because we talked about Pokemon cards. Because I was like big into collecting like the cards and stuff, and it happened again during the pandemic. I've been playing this game lately that I am hooked on, and it's literally just called Trading Card Game Shop Simulator. Where basically you run, it's on PC. You literally run a Pokemon card shop, but it's like a fake, they call it like Tetramon or something. Dude, you rip open packs, you can sell individual cards, you can sell booster boxes, you sell all the accessories with it, you build out the store. Gosh. Dude, it's addicting, and I have no idea why. It is like so low budget and crappily put together by this like one developer. I'm obsessed with it. It's
just ruined my productivity, bro.
Dude, if you got a PC, you're screwed. It's
like the game Goose, where you're just like, I'm a goose, and I just like cause trouble.
Goat Simulator,
Goat Simulator.
Anyway, had to put that out in the world, but
Well, now they know. So, last question. So, you guys are from the Down Under. We love Bluey over here. Isn't that sad? It's like, it used to be Crocodile Dundee got all the credit. Now. Bluey gets all the credit. Yeah. So I want to ask, is your favorite cartoon US or Australia based?
Dragon Ball Z for me, man. Like that.
There it is.
That is.
I guess that in a heartbeat.
There was this thing in Australia, and only an Australian audience will know this, but it was a real problem. Hey, Das, like Cheese TV, Dragon Ball Z was on like 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. every morning, and it would cause literal riots in like Australian households because no one would want to go to school until they watched like that 30-minute episode. Everyone was late. As soon as you get to school, everyone would just be talking about Dragon Ball Z episodes, man. It's the greatest.
You'd be like heading out the door, like watching the last 4 seconds before you'd have to slam the door and run. Like,
your mum's, get in the car. No, mum.
They're still building the spirit bomb, mum.
All right, Darcy, what you got? That's funny.
Man, I'm a Simpsons guy. There isn't a Simpsons line I couldn't quote. Yeah, I just.
Oh man.
Yeah, we just can't go past it.
That's so funny. Simpsons. I did all the Simpsons from 1 till like I was in college, like all of them, all the time. Always had like the lines. It's just a little airborne. It's still good. Random.
There is a Simpsons quote for every single moment in life. There really is. Just brilliant.
And they also predict a lot of.
Yeah, also like a prediction for every major or wacky event that we've lived through too, which is really scary.
Man, it's wrapped in. It's gonna pretty much predict it, man. So, guys, thank you so much. I know it's early in the morning for you. We appreciate you jumping in. Appreciate you in the car. You're about to take something to go, but we know where to find you on LinkedIn. Outbound.Game, probably my favorite app outside of ours. You have won my favorite app because
that's
it's about
awesome, man.
That is put that on record. So now I get to use it with my, our 2 people selling.
Yeah, we got to set this up for Brian, Joe, and Marcus. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
cool.
That'd be sick.
And we're
1v1.
gonna collaborate on some content soon. I mean, there's a lot of crossover between what we're doing with Quote Happily in terms of, like, you know, applying like a good layer of guardrails and guidance and making the quoting process easier in HubSpot. But I think we've got a really interesting angle bringing you guys in to be able to say, like, cool, then how do you put that light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, for your salespeople to actually do their freaking job and want to do it and have a little bit more motivation to do so, other than your manager wants to see your activity data and things like that. So I think there's a lot of I think this is just a good message for any other app builders out there. Is there's so much room for us to work together to create these 1 + 1 = 3 moments when you combine HubSpot with HubSpot apps that enhance and elevate your experience of not only your admins, but your reps and everyone else that touches it. And hopefully we'll be collaborating on some stuff soon that'll show the world that. So guys, thank you so much, man. This is awesome. It's always such a pleasure seeing you and talking with you. And I'm glad that you guys came on to tell the story, man. Like, we want to celebrate your stuff, show people the story behind what you built. And it's always way more than features. There's a big thing to celebrate behind every single cool app out there. And we really appreciate you guys coming and sharing that story. So thank you.
Straight back at you guys, and hats off to you guys. I really do feel like this is day one of the app world in HubSpot, and
this
like
is the chicken focaccia moment.
It's the chicken. You guys are legit leading the way. When I was exploring on those cards, and then I saw Quote Happily in there, like there's no apps in there, and you guys are in there. Like, you guys are literally like the first to market sort of thing. So hats off to you guys. You guys are leading the way, and we look up to you guys and keen to continue collaborating and looking forward to seeing what we build together. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's it, guys. Well, peace out. Appreciate it.
Thanks, having
us.